From claiming that he has what it takes to beat Tank and King Rai, to planning to fight either of them after he becomes a UFC double champ. Here's how Sean O'Malley has demanded a fight against Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. Apparently, he claims to have what it takes to defeat them. I mean, Sean's ready to put on a masterclass inside the boxing ring against two of the sport's best. Right now, the man's asserting his name in the UFC's bantamweight division, but is already eyeing a future crossover to boxing. He's currently on his path to becoming the bantamweight champ after beating Aljamain Sterling. The 28-year-old's already a big superstar inside the octagon. He's one of the most high-profile names in the promotion, and a lot of people also compare him with the likes of Conor McGregor. The American has some serious striking power in his hands, which has earned him some big knockout wins in his career. This seems to be the reason why he's being linked with a potential switch to boxing. But thinking about a crossover to boxing is one thing, calling out two of the biggest names in the sport, well, that's completely different. The number 2 ranked bantamweight fighter was in an interview with GQ Sports. He said that Ryan and Davis are the only two guys he could see himself fighting in the future. Sugar even said that he truly believes he could beat them. The reason why he wants to do all this is pretty obvious though. The bantamweight star wants something similar to what Conor and Mayweather did. Yes, he knows that Blockbuster Fight broke so many records in one night. Plus, he also appreciates the fact that fighters are considering different crossovers. He even said that this kind of thing is good for sports. Sean claims to be in love with what Floyd and McGregor achieved a few years ago. After all, it was one of the biggest combat sports spectacles ever. He followed every bit of that event, from the press conferences to the fight, and wants the same to advance his career in combat sports. I mean, obviously he's in it for the money. Mayweather and Conor bagged millions of dollars in one night with that fight. It generated some mad PPV numbers, and he wants to achieve that too. It's fair enough. Not only this, but he also has a condition to fight Gervonta. He's got to be undefeated, said O'Malley. It looks like Sugar's pretty confident in his boxing abilities even though he's never done something like this professionally. But he did train as a boxer for 2 years in the early days of his combat sports career. And guess what? He even has a boxing fight under his name. The 28-year-old fought inside the ring back in 2016 and won the fight via TKO. So he isn't someone who's completely a stranger when it comes to boxing, but claiming to beat Gervonta? I mean, come on. Sugar said that he wants to break Tank's winning streak, so he has to make sure that Davis stays undefeated for the next few years. Yep, the same Davis who recently settled his rivalry with Garcia and broke his winning streak, and is now considered the new face of boxing. Clearly, Sean's first priority is to fight Tank, but if that doesn't happen, well, he'll turn his attention toward Ryan. However, he isn't the only UFC superstar who called out Davis. Max Holloway also did, and he too claimed to have what it takes to break Tank's streak. These UFC folks aren't short on confidence, I'll give them that. Blessed also wants to mirror the mega event of Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. If someone can make this much money in barely an hour, it's not a surprise to see everyone jumping on the idea. But back to O'Malley. The question to ask here is whether he's really that good at boxing. According to himself, he is. After his knockout win against Petr Yan at UFC 280, Suga said that he's the best boxer in the UFC. Before this fight, Yan was widely considered the greatest pure boxer in the UFC. The Russian proved his ability to box every time he stepped inside the octagon, but that loss really hurt him. Sugar said in a podcast with Logan Paul that he has now stolen that title from Yan, insisting that he was the best striker in the world, something he's been saying since the Contender series. But being the best boxer in MMA is completely different from being a pure boxer. We saw what happened with McGregor. He also made such outrageous statements, and no doubt, he was the best striker in the world at the time, but that was in the UFC. Boxing is a completely different ballgame, and Conor found out the hard way. Sugar should first build a name for himself in boxing before even thinking about taking on Tank. But this is combat sports. When a bunch of money is involved, anything can happen. And who knows, we might get to see this fight. But let's say this fight does happen in a few years' time. Can O'Malley beat either of those guys? First of all, let's talk about a possible Suga versus Tank. I think this is going to be a close matchup. Sean's got those lightning-quick feet, pinpoint striking accuracy, and an unorthodox fighting style. But the thing is, Gervonta also has all these advantages and even more. He's one of the most lethal knockout artists in the world at the moment, and the power he possesses in his hands is insane. and that left hook can put anyone to sleep. But Suga will somehow manage his power. But I think what really will mess him up is the Tank's counterpunching, because that's out of this world. He's so good. Most of the time, fighters don't even know what hit him and when. What Davis likes to do is usually stay on the back foot, encourage his opponents to walk him down and get a little close to him, as our guy right here is pretty small. The opponent tries to hit him with a jab. Tank cleverly lowers his head and hits the other guy with a left counter to the body or head. There's a glimpse of his idol Floyd Mayweather when he uses the shoulder roll at times to deflect shots. This will be a huge problem for Sean. That being said, I think this one will be a pretty close fight, and it will go down the wire. Both of them are sensational strikers, but in the end, Gervonta Davis is the only clear winner in this one. And as far as Sugar's potential fight with Ryan goes, he ain't winning that one either if it's a boxing match. Doesn't matter how quick Sean is, the 24-year-old is even quicker than him, and that's a fact. People also consider him as someone who has the fastest hands in boxing. And this isn't an exaggeration. He's literally the Flash inside a boxing ring. His lightning-fast combos are a sight to behold. Unlike Gervonta, he likes to keep a distance from his opponents, and does so by throwing quick combinations at them. Thing is, he always finds a way past their guard. No matter how good you are defensively, Garcia will always find one little opening to hurt you badly. Although he throws volume combinations at such high speeds, he somehow manages to never lose his balance and stays perfectly on his feet. This is what makes him so dangerous. And his punches aren't only fast, they're extremely powerful as well. Now, one may think while watching him fight that his punches aren't as committed because of his lack of movement, but that's to ensure that they're delivered with as much speed as possible. He's also a great striker, who has finished so many opponents with that left hook of his. There's no doubt that he can harm Suga too. I just don't see any chance of Sean beating either of these guys. They're just too good for him. But the situation can change if it's an MMA fight, then O'Malley will have the upper hand. But the thing is, this fight isn't happening anytime soon. The bantamweight star has a timeline for this. He claimed that he'll go for this fight after he becomes a UFC double champ. And according to him, he'll be able to achieve this feat in the next 5 to 6 years. I mean, I have zero doubts about this guy's quality. With the skill set that he possesses, he can become a double champ in the promotion. Right now, he's only focusing on his clash with Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight gold. Suga's pretty confident too that he can beat him. He said that he's been working hard, and he's got an answer for all of Aljo's moves. Let's hope that he's right, so we can move one step closer to seeing him inside a boxing ring. So, there you have it. From planning to fight either of these guys after he becomes a UFC double champ, to claiming that he has what it takes to beat Ryan Garcia or Tank. That was all on how Sean O'Malley demanded a fight against Ryan and Gervonta.